The wait is finally over. We have it, your first exclusive review of one of the most anticipated soundbars of 2020.
You mean 2021.
I mean 2021. The Klipsch Cinema 1200. So hit that like button like it's your job. Subscribe for your chance to win some crazy hi-fi and home theater gear in our upcoming 200,000 subscriber giveaway. And let's see if the Klipsch Cinema 1200 Dolby Atmos soundbar was worth the wait. The Cinema 1200 is the top-of-the-line soundbar from Klipsch. It is a 5.1.4 Dolby Atmos enabled soundbar system that comes with a massive wireless subwoofer and 2 Atmos enabled wireless surround speakers. The bar features 3 essentially dedicated loudspeakers across the front, acting as the left, center, and right channels, all featuring Klipsch Track-Trix horn tweeters. You also get 2 upward-firing Atmos elevation speakers on the main bar, as well as 2 more on top of the wireless surrounds. The 12-inch wireless subwoofer is driven by an internal amplifier with 500 watts of peak power that, when paired with the soundbar and surrounds, is good for a reported frequency response of 22 Hz to 20 kHz. But more on that in a moment. The 1200 isn't a radical departure from Klipsch's existing line of soundbars, which include the Cinema 600 we reviewed and loved last year. While the all-wood construction of the 1200 is a nice touch, like with other soundbars from Klipsch, it's mostly covered by grill cloth, which in my opinion is kind of a shame. If you aren't familiar with the Cinema soundbar line, the only real visual cue that separates the 1200 from the rest is the presence of the upward-firing Atmos drivers. Oh, and the absolutely massive subwoofer. So about that. The subwoofer is arguably one of the system's strengths and its biggest weakness. Last year, I raved about the truly incredible and taut bass that one could achieve with the Cinema 600's 10-inch subwoofer. When the 1200 arrived and I saw just the size of the new subwoofer, I thought, whoa, they are not playing around. And its larger driver and more powerful amp have taken what was already a powerful platform and pushed it completely into the realm of Crazy Town. And like its more budget-friendly sibling, the 1200 system is still rather limited with respect to adjustment and control, especially when it comes to the subwoofer. If you're hoping for manual controls to come with the more expensive price tag, there aren't any. So why am I bringing this up? Well, my room, like most, has its strengths and its weaknesses. One being a 3 to 5 dB bump in bass around 40 Hz. I know it's there because I've measured it.
I beg your pardon?
This is something I take into account anytime I review a loudspeaker or subwoofer. Knowing this helps me accurately convey my opinions to you, and in extreme cases, I can try and absorb the excess bass energy using bass traps, yes I have some, or just EQ the bump out altogether with software. The point is, no room is perfect. Not even mine. And so like many of you, I may have to work a little harder to get bass-heavy speakers and subwoofers to integrate properly into our space. And when those speakers or subwoofers lack basic functionality, it's just a little harder. This leads me to my biggest concern about the Cinema 1200 subwoofer, its lack of control, like physical controls and adjustability. As of this review, the 1200 subwoofer can only be adjusted plus or minus 6 dB using the included remote. This makes it virtually impossible, at least in my room, to integrate the sub perfectly with the rest of the system. And if I'm a betting man, I expect others may end up having a similar experience. So what does all of this mean? The resulting sound from the 1200 system, frankly, isn't very good. The bass out of this sub is so overpowering, again, in my room, that it goes from being the star of the show to the villain rather quickly. And when I asked Klipsch about their decision to limit the subwoofer's adjustability, this was their response. In all of our testing internally and externally, we've never had any complaints about the subwoofer being too loud. And we definitely won't apologize for building kick-ass, best-in-class subwoofers. While I certainly wasn't looking for an apology, I still found it curious why the designers didn't at least give users the option of turning the sub down beyond, say, -6 dB, given that when asked about pairing third-party subs to the bar, they had this to say. Any wired subwoofer that is attached would come equipped with its own gain knob, so the user can set a good balance between the two subs and use the master subwoofer level to blend to taste with the bar. And that last phrase, blend to taste, that stood out for me. The designers at Klipsch acknowledge that the customer may have different wants, needs, or tastes, as it were, with respect to their system's overall sound, especially when it comes to the bass. They even acknowledge that a third-party sub's gain knob is handy when it comes to blending it in with their system. So why did they not put that same level of functionality into their own more powerful sub so that customers could do the same? I mean, I don't get it. Thankfully, there is a workaround. Klipsch suggested placing the whole system into its Night 1 mode, which cuts the subwoofer's volume by 50%. From there, use the subwoofer level controls up or down to smoothen out the blend between the subwoofer and the soundbar. While this definitely helps, it didn't result in an outright fix or a sound that I would classify as 100% balanced top to bottom. Was it better? Yes, absolutely. But is it enough? When watching big budget action films like Ford vs. Ferrari, 6 Underground, or 2012, the Cinema 1200 system was more than up to the task, delivering a big, bold, dynamic presentation that was absolutely room-filling and engaging. The 1200's mid-range is fuller and richer than most soundbars, at least once you have the bass dialed in and the blend between the bar and sub is just right. To be honest, the best subwoofer pairing in my room was the SVS 3000 Micro that I connected to the soundbar using the 1200 subwoofer output, bypassing their included sub altogether. Doing this freed the bar from the unwanted chestiness and boomy resonances that I had been hearing coming from the spicier Klipsch sub. And this allowed me to better hear the bar, and I have to say, with a properly dialed in sub, the 1200 bar is rather nice, especially in the mid-range. It has good presence, great scale, and intelligibility is good, but it is definitely helped along by turning the dialogue setting to +1 rather than 0, which is the default. I wouldn't push the dialogue setting up past +1 though. Going as far as +2 or +3 had a noticeable effect on the system's high frequency, at times introducing very harsh sibilance and distortion. Keeping the dialogue setting to 1 allows for an increased sense of intelligibility throughout the mids and highs without making the tweeters too hot. On their own, the high frequencies are a bit livelier, but not Bowers & Wilkins 606 hot. Too soon? Klipsch, in recent years, at least in my opinion, has backed off their love of a more forward treble response in favor of one that isn't neutral, but nowhere near as aggressive as it once was. As for surround sound and Dolby Atmos playback, the Cinema 1200 is solid, but I wouldn't go so far as to call it best in class. This is a system that 100% benefits from using the surround speakers. By the way, the power cords that come with these aren't very long, so if you're thinking, well, I'll just use some third-party ones I have lying around the house. I mean, that's what I thought I would do. Make sure the connections are the downward 90-degree variety, because the horizontal ones aren't going to fit. With the surrounds installed, the 1200 is capable of true three-dimensional surround sound. If you usually leave the surround speakers in the box, don't do that. They make a huge difference with this setup. The bar on its own will not sound as spacious or possess that wraparound faux surround quality some bars give you at this price. As for Atmos, you may need to experiment with the volume of the height channels or those upward firing drivers to achieve a good mix. Once you do, their presence is very noticeable. I found them to be a little bit more subtle than the ones you get with the Samsung Q950A or even the Ambio, but all things considered, the Cinema 1200 sounds good, playing back older surround sound formats like Dolby Digital, as well as the new Atmos mix content. Now, the Cinema 1200 has several different sound or surround modes, and all have a pretty big effect on your experience. I preferred the standard direct or movie settings, and I use these three extensively during this review, with standard being my own personal favorite. Music was sometimes okay, though I felt that it accentuated the treble response of the bar a little too much at times, pushing it into forward or even aggressive territory. Game mode was and party, well, it just wasn't a party I wanted to attend. A few other things to note about the 1200's performance. The video switching is good and rather responsive. Now, my PS5 hasn't arrived yet, so I wasn't able to test the bar's 8K pass-through claims, but it worked flawlessly with all of our 4K devices. Wireless connectivity works, as does Bluetooth, both of which make music streaming from your phone or say the Google Home app pretty easy. And of course, the added subwoofer out works and works well. If you are kind of hung up on whether or not it can do the 8K, depending on when you watch this, be sure to keep checking the description because when my PS5 arrives, I'll test it and I'll put my notes there. So what else? The app. Oh yes, the Klipsch Connect app. In July of last year, we were all told that an update was coming to the app and that it would allow for more customization and control over the Cinema 600 soundbar, not to mention the hugely popular the 5s. Today, we are still waiting for those updates to happen. While I accept being asked to wait then, I find it more difficult to do so a full year later, and it's making it impossible for me to ignore the app's shortcomings. And it pains me to say this, but I don't even know why Klipsch even brings up the Connect app, because it's just not finished. You can't even turn the volume down using the app, let alone dial in things like tone controls or, I don't know, EQ the subwoofer. Klipsch acknowledges this is not a good look for them, and they assure me that on or by August 30th of this year, the app will be updated. And according to Klipsch, the app will include the following updates: a 3-band EQ adjustment, virtual remote control, and individual channel level adjustment. So, once again, I'm just gonna have to wait and see. Now, sometimes what you can't control inside an app, you can do using the physical remote, but sadly, that's just not the case here, as the 1200 really is lacking in overall adjustability. Speaking of the remote, if you own a newer VIZIO TV like ours, we're currently using the P-Series Quantum X, the remote's IR codes for the Klipsch Cinema 1200 are one in the same, or they have a lot in common with VIZIO's. So, if you go to change the volume on the soundbar and the channel on your TV suddenly changes, that's why. I can't say how widespread this issue is because obviously I don't have every TV on the market, but if this happens to you, at least you know your TV isn't possessed. Klipsch is working on a fix, so hopefully this can be addressed in a firmware update. And as for comparisons, the most notable for me has to be the Samsung Q950A we just reviewed. Now, the Klipsch Cinema 1200 system is a V8 muscle car to the Q950A's Tesla. To say the Klipsch is outmatched with respect to tech and features when compared to the Samsung is the understatement of the year. The Samsung has more channels, which is noticeable when comparing these two products head to head, because the Samsung sound results in a more spacious sound field front to back and top to bottom. The side and angled drivers of the Samsung do a better job filling out the side of the soundstage before needing to rely on the surrounds. Also, the Samsung doesn't limit your ability to dial in its own subwoofer, even providing you with an automatic EQ option, which you just don't get on the Klipsch. So while there are aspects of the 1200's performance that I enjoy, the Samsung is the safer, better, and frankly more complete product, at least as of this review. With respect to the VIZIO Elevate, I'm going to have to side with the Klipsch Cinema 1200, purely because in the end, I was able to arrive at a sound that more or less worked for me, and that allowed me to set and forget the 1200 system, whereas I always felt like I was fidgeting with the Elevate to get it just how I wanted. That, and I never did get the damn thing to connect to the internet again.
Found.
Now, in terms of raw cinema horsepower and room-defying sound, the 1200 is better than single-bar solutions like the Bang & Olufsen BEOSOUND stage. Though, if you're going for subtlety and nuance, the B&O is the superior bar. Not to mention, the stage is better for music, in my opinion. And as for how the 1200 compares to one of my favorite soundbars of 2020, the Cinema 600, for me, I have to side with the 600. Given the control limitations of the cinema ecosystem just in general, blending the smaller sub with the 600 for a more balanced presentation was a lot easier. Considering the Cinema 600 system is routinely half the price of the 1200, you might as well pay less if you're going to go ahead and get less. And if the app does get that update, the same functionality that the 1200 needs in order to be competitive will also be coming to the 600, arguably making it even more competitive at its price. So what about the Cinema 800? Well, what about it? I don't have it, so I have no comment on it, but I can tell you that the Cinema 800 system is not a true Dolby Atmos system. It's a virtual one. The 1200 is the only one with height effect speakers. So if that matters to you, you need to get the 1200. If you don't mind a little faux Atmos action, you can go with the 8. The Cinema 1200 still feels like a work in progress. The blueprint for something great is there. The foundation, which is good cinematic sound, that is laid. Now it needs some finesse. I'm really hoping that we get that with the app update. The Cinema 1200 is likely never going to compete with Samsung in terms of features, and for some of you that's okay. But at a minimum, Klipsch needs to show that they're going to follow through with their promises and bring a small measure of control to their cinema series ecosystem so that at least it becomes more friendly to more people and more rooms. But as it stands right now, the Cinema 1200 is just good. But maybe with an app update or two, it can be great. So that's it. That is now my review of the Klipsch Cinema 1200 soundbar. Now it's time to find out what KRISTI thought of it.
Okay. Look, you know that I strongly pushed to delay this review.
Yes, you did.
And that is the only reason for that is because, as Andrew says, it doesn't seem like this product's finished.
Yeah.
And I have to wonder, God, I mean, look, I can't imagine how difficult it is of a decision to make for a company like Klipsch to put out a product that they know full well themselves is not, the cake is not baked.
Not all the way.
Not all the way.
Not all the way.
Sorry.
You stick the noodle in it and a little bit still sticks to the thing. So it needs a couple more minutes.
It does. It does. Don't put the icing on just yet, guys.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm like, I really didn't want to go to press with this. But, you know, once we found out that the actual app update that's going to maybe solve a lot of our major concerns with this system, it's not coming until August 30th, guys.
And they're putting this on sale now.
Yeah, the embargo
Lifts tomorrow.
Lifts tomorrow. We were given the go-ahead that we could go a day early.
Yeah.
And we are so grateful for that kind of a relationship. And I mean, I do feel bad that we ultimately don't. Okay, I'll say for me, like, I ultimately don't love this soundbar.
As it stands now.
As it stands right now.
Yeah.
And I wish we had the opportunity to wait. I wish Klipsch had the opportunity to wait.
Well, Klipsch could have waited. It's their product. They could have decided to hold it, but I know that this product has been delayed. You know, I don't know exactly when it was supposed to come out last year. But it's been a minute. And so I have to imagine the powers that be behind the scenes, like, they just had to do it. They had to do it. They couldn't sit on it any longer.
Well, and so that, and neither could we. You know, I'm sorry. This is a business where you have to strike while the iron is hot. And this thing is coming out. We just can't wait. We can't wait and hold our thoughts about what this is as it is right now, because
this is the product you're going to buy.
Or this is what you're going to get if you were to buy it.
This is what you're going to get if you buy it. If you go out tomorrow or sometime in the next week because you have been waiting on this product for 6 months or longer, this is what you're buying. And much like we said in the Sony OLED review, it's like, and KRISTI ranted in the back of that one, and this isn't a rant, but it's like, I need to talk about what you are today, not what you promise you're going to be in the future. Because we don't know if that future is going to happen. Yeah,
I mean, and look, the knock on Klipsch for promising something and not delivering is not unique to Klipsch.
No,
and that is something that is something I talked about in our Sony review.
Yeah,
and it seems like, anyway, that it's becoming more commonplace for a lot of industries to tell you you're going to get something, but just not right now.
Right.
But it's going to come, and then the customer may end up just never getting it.
Right.
And that's nobody wants that. So anyway, enough of all that. So when talking with Klipsch, they see a soundbar customer as someone who A, wants better than TV sound, and B, doesn't need parametric EQ. In other words, it's about the simplicity of the customer experience.
Yes.
Like, if this is who you're telling me your customer is, where the heck is my auto EQ function? Because if you're telling me that customer simplicity, the simplicity of the customer experience
is paramount.
Ease of use.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
The easiest way to do anything is to give me a one button that goes Fixed it for you.
Yeah.
Automatic, auto. This is what you want.
Okay.
So I don't know. I just, that I can't quite put, it doesn't, 2 and 2 are not adding up to 4 for me.
Okay.
And that's kind of, that's it.
where you're at.
That's it.
Okay. That's it. Yeah. I mean, look, one button push, fix, room acoustic, auto EQ setup. That would be great. That really would be great. And, especially at what I am considering to be a higher price point.
Yeah. I mean, it's what? It's like
$1,600 bucks. I mean,
it's $1,499. So
it's
$1,500.
So that puts you in
no slouch.
That puts you in Samsung and LG's territory, and they offer that level of functionality. So you are right. Conversely, if I'm going to make the argument on Klipsch behalf, they haven't asked me to do this, but I would say that it is one of the more easier sound bars because they may look at it from a standpoint of, you take the bar out, you plug the subwoofer in, you plug the surrounds in, and minus volume up and down, choosing a mode that you want, and maybe dialing up or back the surrounds or subs, and you're done. I just say that, yes, that is true. That is true. That is exactly the most perfect, succinct description of setting up this system. But then why put the limits on just the volume? That's what I don't get. So they have succeeded, in my opinion, of creating a very basic, very simple setup in that there aren't a lot of controls to have to monkey with. I just don't understand why they then limited the degree of control. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you can go -6, or I get maybe limit it +6, you can't overdrive it. But if you can go -6, why can't you go -9, -12, -15, or off? And unfortunately, the only way to turn the sub off is night mode 2.
1.
No, night mode 1 is 50%. Night mode 2 is off. And it's like, well, just because it's a night mode 2, look, it's just a lack of control. Keep it simple, fine, but give me variable control. Give me variable volume, at least on the sub.
Look, I think even an audiophile, a true audiophile, is going to argue that a soundbar, Klipsch isn't going, nobody is going after the traditional audiophile in the soundbar market.
No.
So
they're not going to buy it.
Making it as simple as possible, I think, means giving an auto EQ function. And I think because everybody's room is so drastically different.
Yep. Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not. That crosses over into tech. And maybe Klipsch, being a more older school speaker company, they're just not there yet. But I think if they want to compete in the soundbar game going forward, and who doesn't, it's still one of the most fastest growing aspects of hi-fi and home theater, the soundbar market. Yeah, that's something you're probably going to want to invest in.
I think soundbars are a great stepping stone to get people into wanting to experience better sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Klipsch delivers 99% of the time with their products at giving you that.
Absolutely.
So I really feel like they're so close.
If there was ever going to be a mass market appeal product to kind of burst through the door for a brand and say, look at what we do now, it would have been this.
Totally.
It would have been this.
Like Samsung, LG, hold my beer.
Yeah.
You think you know what you're doing over there?
Yeah.
We're the keepers of the sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's it. That is now our review of the Klipsch Cinema 1200 soundbar. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And my question of the day for you is this. Let's all pretend we get to be the head of Klipsch for one day. What would you have done? Would you have released this product now, or would you have waited for the app to be updated? Let us know. I'm really curious how you feel about that.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You're more than just a pretty face, Andrew.
I'm not a pretty face. Anyway, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out, and also so that you're notified if we decide to do another live stream. We had a lot of fun live streaming with you all yesterday. Sorry, that was kind of a total spur of the moment decision by me. So I do apologize for some of you if you're like, oh, I didn't get enough notification. I know, because when I woke up yesterday, I didn't know I wanted to do it. Anyway, you're going to want to make sure that you ring that bell so that you're notified. So the next time we go live, answer your questions and just talk shop, you can join us. Because it was a lot of fun. So that's all I'm going to say about that. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, that is a great way that you guys have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us thank you guys very much for that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audio Files so that you can see all of the little behind the scenes stuff that's coming up and new collaborations that we're working on. Yeah, you're going to want to check that out. Anyway, that's it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.